All right, friends, welcome back. We had just ended our last video talking about how to get intentional with how you're allocating your funds in retirement for the ability to control that. And we had started to talk about the bucket strategy, but we got a lot of questions after the last video, and we wanted to make sure we were addressing these. So the bucket strategy, again, is something that you're creating to address your cash flow needs in retirement, right? You're creating these different buckets where you're going to pull from these different buckets during different time periods, and anything that you're not going to be utilizing within the first 6, 7 years of your retirement, you're going to really consider this more long term, right? So what we've done is we've created a timeline to show you exactly, okay, how this would kind of look. So imagine if this was your retirement picture. You're retiring. In this case, we're having this person retire at 65, right? They were on salary prior to 2025, right? If we move this over, their salary, but now they're on pension, right? So there's $85,000 of income coming in because this person is going to wait for Social Security. And additionally, there's expenses going out the door. There's living expenses, there's debt expenses, you could consider that mortgage, and of course, there's healthcare expenses. And specifically, in the first couple years of retirement, this person intends to vacation quite a bit, and then that's going to taper off to zero after 10 years. Okay. So, in their first year of retirement, there is a significant outflow of their retirement funds. And this is going to be a withdrawal out of what we build as a short-term bucket. We want to make sure we can withdraw 136,000 without affecting their retirement portfolio if the economy suffers and their stock portion of their account suffers. So we got 136 that we're going to use. In 2026, the withdrawal is going to be even a bit larger because there's a bit more state federal taxes that are owed in this situation because the tax sunset. So in this case, we got 147. So far, we're close to 300, but the next year in 2027, we now only need to withdraw 73. Why? Because Social Security has been introduced. Both of these couples are now 67. We're introducing social. All the other expenses remain the same. So at this point, we need about $350,000 for the first 3 years of this person's or this couple's retirement. That's going to be in their short-term bucket. Okay. From here, we're going to advance the timeline. And now we've got social, we've got pension, but we are beginning to pay off that home mortgage. We've gone from 24,000 down to 18,000. Our vacation is the same, right? However, our expenses are diminishing. So in our midterm bucket, we got about 65,000 in year 4 that we want to plan for. By 2029, we've gotten rid of our mortgage, but our vacationing is still the same. So we got $50,000 there, right? So we're up to maybe 100,000 in our midterm. But now we've got a significant decrease to our cash flow outlays from our retirement account because why? Our mortgage is being paid off. Our vacation is now being tapered down. So you see that it was almost 50,000 the year before. It's being tapered down. So we've got 27, the year after that, 30,000, the year after that, 34,000, and the year after that, 37,000. And 10 years into retirement, they're done vacationing, they say. They're done with their mortgage. And now we only need $6,000 out. So folks, in that segment, In that midterm segment, which we'll call outside of that short-term window, the first 3 years, let's call this the next midterm segment, the 7 years before they basically got to break even, we needed around $250,000. Okay. So if we're going to think about this in chunks, right, and what their allocation should be, let's go back to our buckets and let's think about this. In our short-term bucket needs to be $350,000 in something super safe, right? Let's call that treasuries. Let's call that, savings, whatever you want, but that needs to be super safe, ready to go. No worries on withdrawing that. And we're going to utilize that portion. In that midterm bucket, we're going to extend that time period out a little bit to account for all those in-between areas until we got their budget essentially back to even once their mortgage was paid off, once they were done vacationing as much as they thought within that first 10-year period. That's $250,000. So now we've built these buckets, 350, 250. Now what goes into our short-term bucket or our long-term bucket, folks? The rest. Everything in this short-term bucket is filled with the 350, the midterm's 250. The long-term is now going to be the rest of your investments because we've planned out the course of your retirement. We can plan for some emergencies in there if you wanted to, but everything else can be in that long-term bucket, growing with the market. And that is exactly how you pull off the bucket strategy approach. So I hope that makes sense. To kind of piggyback on what we talked about before, the TSP just does not allow you to create these buckets. It does, but it doesn't allow you to pull from them in that order, which is exactly what you need to do in retirement. So again, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to join us on our next video.